Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks as always for tuning in. So today we're going to take a look at another custom knife. This one comes from Clyde Challenor out of South Africa, and this is the Raptor 2, designed in collaboration with Francois Nell. You can see his mark there, and Clyde's mark here. So this is what it ships with, as all of Clyde's new knives do. Branded pouch with a patch here, so pretty cool bonus stuff. And let's get into the specs, overall impressions, and details as we always do. Spec wise, so first, this is obviously a titanium frame lock flipper, and runs on bearings, of course. We're looking at a blade length of just about 4 inches, handle length of 5.25 inches, giving us an overall of 9.25 inches. So it's definitely a big knife here. The knife does weigh in at 6.75 ounces, and it has a handle thickness of 0.54 inches thick there. So yeah, M390, if I haven't mentioned that, 6AL4V, pivot, and the parts I believe are Alpha Knife Supply. He does go with, his internal stop pin here that runs on the blade. It's not external, you can't see it. Obviously hardened, pivot is hardened. Everything is kind of built to use and abuse on this knife, if you could bring yourself to it. So yeah, as far as my overall impressions, I've always been fond of Clyde's work. I think this is possibly it has to be at least the third, probably the fourth knife you've seen on my channel from Clyde. So I think highly of his work, and it's getting even better. So this one is absolutely smooth, Shiro smooth, really, really well done. He has started to incorporate stainless steel lock insert, which I am very, very fond of on titanium frame locks. So I think his work, it's always been good, but it's getting better and better. And he's certainly becoming more well known, so his work is getting harder to get. So anyways, those are the specs, those are my overall impressions. Let's jump in and kind of look at the knife in detail here. So let's start with the action. Again, super, super smooth. Flipping action. Flips really hard. The detent is probably medium on this knife, but the knife is so smooth that it really does not take much to get it to just fly open. So we have obviously a thumb hole here and then a flipper tab. So flips really hard. You can use your thumb, and you can middle finger flick it, which is always so hard to do under the camera. I don't know why. There we go. So anyways, have to make sure I do the action justice here. So yeah, but I asked him how he got the knife to be so smooth, and he said the secret is really having the handles perfectly parallel here. The distance kind of at the butt of the knife with the backspacer versus the distance here at the pivot has to be perfect, or what will happen is the knife will catch at one point in the opening cycle because something isn't perfectly parallel. So that's his secret to smoothness here, and man, this thing is just so smooth. Does have a ceramic detent ball, and it uses stainless steel bearings here. Now the bearings are running directly on the titanium, and so we chatted about that for a little bit. And what he does is he cold rolls the blade steel and the frame. So before the blade steel is heated, he basically puts the knife together, puts it in a clamp, squeezes it down, and he rolls the bearings in it to essentially force a track in the titanium. As you guys know, bearings will over time create a track in titanium, so if you preform that track, it will not compress any further. And so when we were chatting about how much titanium actually compresses, he said in his measurements it's about 0.1 millimeters is how much the titanium will compress with the balls running over them. So anyways, he preforms that, and so the titanium will not compress further. And this is the same. I had a similar discussion with a custom knife maker, Matt Kuchara, probably a year or so ago, and he essentially said the same thing. The titanium will only travel so far. So anyways, that's how Clyde does his. He doesn't want to mill out extra material from this area to put in a stainless steel racer, because then he basically said he doesn't want to compromise the strength here of the pivot. So as you guys can see, this is working perfectly, crazy smooth, and I don't anticipate that changing in the slightest. So anyways, just something different to think about when we're thinking about, you know, stainless steel racers. Are they necessary? Do they have to have them? And when you're doing one knife at a time and you're preforming that channel or that track, obviously this knife shows you don't. So anyway, something cool to think about. Really good discussion that I had with Clyde kind of regarding that. Now let me show you guys, actually let's take a look at the blade. So again, beautiful hand rubbed, reverse tanto, hollow ground with a nice swedge up top. Very attractive blade shape. Lots of belly, perfectly functional. As you guys can see, the hole here is very functional as well. No jimping, but there is kind of a thumb ramp of sorts here. So you feel quite controlled with that, with kind of this large finger trail here. Again, that's what really locks you in, feels like you have a lot of control over the knife. So yeah. Flipper tab has some jimping at the very top here, so makes it pretty easy to flip if you're getting on top of it or if you're getting in front of it. No drama. And then another thing he did, let me see if I can get some additional light here without being too much. There is a detent ball track down there. You guys can see that right there. And so what that does is it makes it easier for the detent ball to jump up onto the tang of the blade. A number of makers and companies are doing this now. I think it's a tremendous advantage. So that way when the detent ball is coming up onto the tang or sliding off, as you can see here, it's not met with so much resistance, and that helps improve kind of the smoothness, the action, the feel of the knife. So let me show you guys the eye bar insert here. That should suffice. This is going to be tricky. Okay, well, I don't know if that's going to work here. It seems like I'm kind of just making a mess of things, but one thing that's interesting is that there's a stainless steel lock insert in here, but Clyde puts, I don't know if you're able to see that, but essentially the detent ball is sitting on a titanium island. So he cuts a hole in the stainless steel lock insert so that he can put the detent ball in a hole there. What he mentioned, and again, if I probably didn't show that well, let's try one more time, guys, then I'll stop trying if you guys are getting annoyed at this point. So the detent ball right there at the top sits in a titanium island. Hopefully you can see that, and then the stainless steel is kind of around it. And what Clyde mentioned was that when you put the detent ball into, if you compress it into a hole in the stainless steel, the ball is more likely to pop out of the stainless steel. But because the titanium is softer, it takes the impacts a little bit better, and so it's more likely to retain in the titanium. And oddly enough, last month I got a new knife in where the detent ball was actually set in the stainless steel, and it did pop out. Now thankfully the maker slash company and the vendor both wanted to make it right, so I was able to exchange it without any problems. But it was interesting how those two kind of correlated, time-wise at least. So, all right, so we've talked about all the internals here. Obviously titanium handles, kind of a bead or a media blast, and he milled a unique pattern into this one. So I know he's done at least one more, he's done at least one more, kind of a similar fashion, but the mill work, the pattern was completely different. So he's not wanting to replicate any knife, and every knife I've seen from him has been different in some regard. So yeah, now everything is wire EDM cut. That's why you see such clean, slender lines here on these thick pieces of titanium. And he likes to use the wire to EM for the kind of the precise nature of those cuts. Plus, it gets, when you have pieces this thick of titanium, it gets difficult to have clean cuts in these thick pieces. So anyways, really precise cuts. He does his own heat treat on the blade. Obviously the blade is hand ground. The handles are hand shaped. So 3D titanium pocket clip. A little bit of material moved right there for extra spring, but really well done. So now you guys might have noticed that the screws holding in the backspacer actually protrude a little bit. And so Clyde and I were talking about this, and he said his intent for that was to give you a spot to grab onto on the back of the knife to pull out of the pocket. So he left those kind of protruding a little bit. Now, you know, in speaking with some friends and some customers, they said it seemed a bit unfinished. Obviously, his intent was to give you a traction point. So he's gone ahead and sunk all the future ones. He's just going to go ahead and sink them into the handle more, so that it doesn't convey that unfinished look. You know, I told him with the mill marks here, when you reach into your pocket and you grab on the top of the clip and you grab on here, the mill pattern actually provides a lot of traction. So I told him that probably wasn't necessary. Maybe some texturing here on the top portion of the pocket clip is probably something that I would prefer if I was you know, if I was making it. But anyways, no problems extracting it from the pocket because of the texture here on the handle. So there's the large standoff here at the back, primarily open construction. So yeah, again, just super smooth, really well done. One of the smoothest knives I've ever felt using stainless steel ball bearings. So yeah, really cool. This one also has a larger pivot. This is a 1/4 inch pivot, so he's kind of, you know, beefed up the size for these larger knives. Blade is 61 to 62 on the Rockwell hardness, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So again, another custom knife out of South Africa, built by Clyde Challenor and designed by Francois Nell. And this is the Raptor 2 RT Reverse Tonto. So hopefully you guys enjoyed taking a look at another custom knife here. So this will probably be my last video before Blade Show. Got a lot to get done in the few days coming up. Got to get things squared away at work and so on and so forth. So anyways, hopefully you enjoyed my video. I'll put links to all the pertinent individuals in the description box below. And again, Clyde's going to be at Blade Show with a bunch of knives, to go find his table. Thanks guys for watching. See you soon.